Every UFC champion has big wins, but there's always that one performance that they had where they look better than everyone else. Today I'm going to be breaking down the best performance of every current men's UFC champion, and I'm going to be breaking down the fights that they looked unstoppable and the best they've ever looked. So let's get into it. Now, starting off the list is Joshua Van, and with Joshua Van's best performance is his fight against Brandon Royval. My reasons for this is because Brandon Royval at the time was the #1 contender in the flyweight division. He was a tall guy for that division, and he was an intelligent, great striker. And when you looked at it on paper, you saw that Joshua Van was number 12th ranked at the time, and he's facing on the #1 ranked opponent. You know, it looked as if it was a bit of a mismatch, you know, a tall, rangy striker versus Joshua Van, you know, a rookie, a young guy who's, you know, coming into the UFC and taking on opponents. And Joshua Van managed to shock everyone. You know, he managed to show us his sharp boxing, being able to handle all the pressure, being able to utilize his ability, and being able to adapt his approach mid-fight. For that reasoning, I'm going to put that as Joshua Van's best performance, as he came in as an underdog, beat the #1 ranked guy, and was able to get a title shot because of his great performance and display of striking ability. So for that, I'm going to put Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval as his best performance. Now for Piotr, I'm going to say his best performance was his recent fight against Merab Dvalishvili in the rematch. My reasonings for this is because, you know, a lot of people, including myself, were worried about Piotr, you know, because from a few years ago, Piotr looked like he was going to reign dominant in that division for a very long time. But then the incident with Aljamain Sterling happened, and it looked like his career was on a decline. You know, losing to O'Malley, Aljamain twice, and losing to Merab Dvalishvili in a pretty dominant style. But then having a resurgence of beating guys like Song Yadong and McGee, it showed us that Piotr was working his way back up. And then to take out Merab Dvalishvili the way he did was just truly impressive. He beat the wrestler at his own game. The wrestler, you know, being Merab Dvalishvili, couldn't grab him and, you know, manhandle him like he normally does. He, you know, took Merab down in certain parts of the fight. And there's also moments in the fight where he displayed intelligent, immaculate striking. You know, the way he caught him with that left body kick and, you know, caused Merab to be in so much agony. Having crisp boxing and, you know, being able to evade shots and hit Merab and bloody his face up was just truly impressive. Coming back, you know, from that 4-year decline and being able to get revenge and become a champion again was just truly impressive and was Piotr best performance. Now for Volkanovski, I'm going to say his best performance was his fight against Max Holloway in the third fight, and my reasons for this is because, you know, when you look at the first two fights, Volkanovski was able to defeat Max Holloway, you know, having great leg kicks helped him. And then when in the second fight, you saw that a lot of people disagreed with the outcome. A lot of people agreed that Max Holloway was robbed and, you know, deserved to get the belt instead of Volkanovski. So, you know, going into that third fight, Volk had a point to prove, to show that he was the best fighter in the featherweight division, and to just absolutely dominate Max Holloway throughout the entire fight and beating him when it came to striking was just truly impressive. And it looked like a statement from Volkanovski, you know, to show us that he is here to stay. He's better than everyone. Whoever you put against him is going to lose. And, you know, just beating a legend like Max Holloway the way he did at his own game and striking was just very impressive to see, and was truly the best performance of Volkanovski. Now for Ilia Topuria, I'm going to say his best performance, you know, of his entire career is his fight against Max Holloway. My reasonings for this is because, you know, coming into this fight, Max Holloway brutally KO'd, you know, Justin Gaethje at UFC 300, and it was a big statement. You know, it showed to us that Max Holloway had improved. He went to a bigger division in lightweight and was able to take out one of the deadliest strikers, which was Justin Gaethje, and, you know, put on an absolute statement that he's evolved, he's gotten better since his last couple of performances, and he is a big threat to Ilia Topuria. And, you know, for Ilia Topuria at the time, it was a big threat. You know, you can see it in his reaction at UFC 300 of Max Holloway KOing Justin Gaethje, and a lot of people were in the belief that Max Holloway was one of the best strikers in the UFC. They didn't call him the best boxer in the UFC for a reason. You know, he demonstrated it many times in his career, and, you know, it showed us that Ilia Topuria had a point to prove. You know, he wanted to show to everyone that he is a better striker than Max Holloway, and, you know, in the fight he was able to just completely outmatch Max Holloway. Max wasn't able to catch him and get a rhythm going on, and in the third round he was brutally KO'd by Ilia Topuria. You know, no one expected Ilia Topuria to KO Max Holloway, as Max Holloway is known for being durable. So to go out there and just brutally KO Max Holloway the way he did was just the best performance of his entire career. Now, when it comes to Islam Makhachev, the best performance of his entire career is his fight against Jack Della Maddalena. Now, I say this because, you know, going into that fight, Jack was perceived as a big threat to Islam Makhachev, you know, from his performance against Belal Muhammad, being able to stuff a lot of the takedowns, you know, being able to keep the fight standing and, you know, land a lot of shots on Belal Muhammad was truly impressive, you know. Seeing a big dominant wrestler getting manhandled and, you know, getting his style dismantled by a striker like Jack Della Maddalena was impressive to see, and a lot of people were worried for Islam Makhachev, including myself. You know, we all thought that Islam Makhachev isn't a great striker as Jack Della Maddalena, and if you can't get that wrestling in, he's in big trouble. But seeing how Islam Makhachev just completely eliminated the threat of JDM on the feet was impressive. You know, using the leg kicks really helped him, and you know, the clinch did help him eliminate the boxing threat of JDM, as JDM couldn't set his feet down properly and get the right range applicable to land shots on Islam Makhachev, and just dominating him with the Dagestani wrestling that he's always demonstrated, but to another level in this fight, was really immaculate and impressive to see. And which is why it was Islam Makhachev's best performance of his career, because he was able to eliminate all aspects of JDM's game and had a lot of us wondering who can even step into the discussion of even challenging Islam Makhachev as a worthy contender who can beat him. Now, for Khamzat Chimaev, I'm going to say his performance against Dricus du Plessis was the most impressive win of his career. Going into this fight, a lot of people were worried about Khamzat Chimaev against Dricus du Plessis, mainly due to the factor of his cardio. Dricus was conceived to have better cardio than Khamzat Chimaev and being unorthodox when it came to fighting, and was perceived as a threat to Khamzat Chimaev because yes, Khamzat Chimaev was known as a great grappler and a big threat to anyone in that division. His main weakness was his cardio, as demonstrated multiple times in his career. He can get gassed out pretty quickly, and fighting a guy whose gas tank is really incredible like Dricus du Plessis was quite concerning for Khamzat Chimaev. But to go out there and to just manhandle him throughout the whole fight and, you know, not gassing out even once was impressive to see. It showed us that Khamzat evolved, was able to push a dominant aggressive pace for the next 5 rounds and to just secure a win over a dominant threat like Dricus du Plessis, who was very unorthodox and, you know, just someone that a lot of people couldn't figure out, and Khamzat managed to figure him out in that fight pretty easily. Now, for Alex Pereira, I'm going to say his best performance is his fight against his rematch with Magomed Ankalaev. My reasonings for this is because Alex Pereira was completely different this time and was able to adapt from the mistakes he made in the first fight. In the first fight, he threw a lot of lead leg calf kicks instead of right calf kicks, so that was a switch that he made. You know, he was trying to catch Magomed a lot with that left hook, and he's known for that left hook, so Magomed was aware of that. So in the rematch, he threw that deadly right hand which caught Magomed. You know, being able to structure a well-planned game plan, was able to throw Magomed off guard and catch Magomed when he least expected it. It showed us that Alex's intelligence was there, and he was able to, you know, come up with ways to counter people that have already figured him out beforehand. He was able to come back and become the champion and solidify his dominance in that division, as he's beaten all the top guys in that division, and I don't see no one being able to compete with Alex Pereira because of how intelligent he is, his overall IQ, and his ability to just stop people in their tracks. Now, for Tom Aspinall, it's going to have to be his fight against Sergey Pavlovich. The reasons for this is because, you know, there was a lot of talk about Sergey Pavlovich being a big threat in the heavyweight division. He was known as a great puncher and, you know, someone to be watched out for and be careful about because of how scary he was when it came to striking. And, you know, when it came into this fight, Tom proved everyone wrong. He was able to just use his speed, his great footwork, and his power to just catch Sergey off guard and KO with him brutal style to get that interim belt around his waist. This performance, in a lot of people's eyes, solidified Tom Aspinall as a big threat in that division and someone to watch out for, and someone who John Jones should watch out for. But anyways, that's been this video. These were just my opinions about every UFC champion's best performance in their career. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.